So call the meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? If no, it's accepted, approved as distributed. I need, if there's no objection, the minutes for last meeting is approved. Does anyone have any objection or any changes to the minutes from last meeting?
No, they looked okay to me.
Then they're approved.
Yeah, I didn't have any questions or changes to it, so I move that we approve them as received.
Second.
Okay, public comments. I don't see anyone from the public. Is Debbie Hess is not from the public. She probably wishes she was sometimes.
Just kind of
Okay.
hides off camera.
No comment from the public. Financial statement. I think that's you, Barbara. Is that you?
That's me.
Okay.
That's right.
Do what you can and
Okay.
we'll go from there.
Well, page 16 is the volume page. And the volumes were pretty much up throughout the facility. So I did miss the clinics, or not the clinic, the rural health, not even the rural health, the retail pharmacy scripts on the report, but it'll be on the report that goes to the board.
Okay.
They had 3,783 scripts filled for the month. So they exceeded their budget there.
Yeah.
Good.
Everything looks good. I looked at it. I think everybody else probably did
Yeah.
there, so.
The outpatient visits were down. I noticed that 1,040 versus, I know our budget was only 1,182, but we had 1,500 from prior year. I don't know if that was just
Well,
the
yeah,
height of the
it was the beginning.
testing and stuff that we
yeah.
were doing. That's what I thought. Okay.
So we'll probably see a lot of differences, different months,
Yeah.
because it really grew with the testing.
It's gonna take a while to level back out.
Right, exactly.
Be what we consider normal. I don't think we'll ever be normal again, at least until I get off the board. Yes. Okay. Is there anything else you need to go over?
If you want to look at the income statement on page 11, you can see our revenues were extremely high for the month, 10,805, but exceeded the budget and last year's number also.
Is that a new high for us?
It is, yes.
That's as high as I've ever seen it. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
believe it is.
So I did look at the last 3 years, and that is the highest we've had for the last 36 months at least.
Yeah.
We had a lot of patients in the ER, and usually when that happens, it drives the revenue up.
I was in the ER. I'm probably part of the reason we got more money, but we don't get enough money for what they do there. We are so underpaid. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
It's just crazy.
We don't argue with that.
Okay,
So our net operating revenues were 3,189,000. Our total operating expenses were 2,575,000, giving us an operating surplus of 613,000. And after our non-operating revenues, income and revenues, we ended up with a profit of 642,345 for the month of July. And it's the first month in the new fiscal year. So the year-to-date numbers are exactly the same.
so we don't need Chet or Dave.
No, you don't.
Yes, we do.
You did good.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Now, everything is here. Dave, I don't know if you have.
Yeah. Sure. Just to briefly summarize big picture, clearly the volumes this last month played the biggest role, especially acute care is when you get a high amount of patient days. And if you looked at the percentage change from budget and from prior year, looking at 30–40% higher, that is the largest paying service line is the inpatient med surge. So you're going to get a large increase in money coming in, greater than what you expected. And then on top of that, if you look at the expenses, salaries are actually below budget. So usually when you get the volume, usually it requires a higher amount of staffing. It might have been just because we didn't have staffing available. So Mark's folks had to just buck it up. So we probably should say a special thank you to the whole, the nursing and all the other ancillary staff for handling the volume without the extra business, without the extra staffing available.
Yeah.
Thank you,
part-
Dave. I'll pass that along.
Not to take away from that, that's absolutely awesome, but our skilled nursing is still down around 50 and out of possible 75, so our staffing's gonna be down by a third.
That's true, but we did budget close to that number too, so that it's the skilled is one of those, it's probably going to take time to bring it back, but acute, when we improve on the acute side, it adds more dollars
Cool.
even than skilled. We're gonna in the future spend more time on the balance sheet. There are some numbers that in the future I'm going to highlight when we look at accounts receivable. We look at some of the liability accounts as it relates to possible paybacks, because it could affect the bottom line going forward, and we need to make sure the board understands what some of these numbers are assumed to be right now in the current balance sheet, showing some significant numbers of possible liabilities that may or may not be there. So I'm in the process of researching that with our auditor, Rick Jackson. And we might have some new news in the next couple of months about making some changes to some of the amounts we're estimating for liability on third-party payments.
Well, and like IGT, at one point, they pulled back $2 million from us in the middle of nowhere from nothing.
Yes, so it's not all bad idea to have something in reserve to
Right.
not know that it's going to happen, but we're going to just try to find the middle of the road and pick the right number that so we don't get surprised. The other thing that I want at some point spend more time on is looking at what's a very large number on the balance sheet. It's labeled less bad debts and allowance reserves. If you go to that page on the assets, what page number is
Page
that?
9.
Page 9.
And you can see that number for the month was 18,887,152. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing my own independent reasonableness analysis to make sure we have a good, accurate picture of how much of what got billed out is actually going to be collected, because that can really drive your bottom line too.
Oh, very, very good. Tim, from everything I've heard so far, you have done wonderful.
It's
Will we have to pay him?
You have to pay him a little bit, yeah.
and thankfully, Tim is letting me do this remote. Otherwise, it'd be more expensive.
That's right.
It is so awesome that we can do that. The world is turning. We can talk to patients. We can do so much more than we could do. And we have you available, like you just said, and it's just as good or better sometimes for me whenever I didn't take a shower before the meeting. It's better for me to Zoom.
And I've enjoyed it since I've retired. I can, get up at 5 a.m. in my pajamas and get 4 hours of work done before I get any interruptions.
Yeah, I told Tim I wanted to talk to you, but you've talked to yourself, so I don't even need, you know more than I do.
We'll get him out here.
Catherine,
I
can you
wanna-
take
I wanna
control of
get
this
him to
meeting,
spend some
please?
time
You know
together.
what? I'm not in charge of this one, but I could. But it seems like Gene's feeling pretty good and a little chatty, so we'll let him have a few more minutes.
Okay.
And that's it, all right?
Okay, well, we're getting down to, okay, so Barbara, you're finished, right? Okay, and Dave, you have filled in.
Yeah, those are the only things I wanted to summarize is
Oh,
what I saw going on so far.
okay, Kathleen, are you happy to hear the way Dave is talking?
I am. Yeah, I think things are looking good, and I'm glad that he pointed and is willing to do more research on that little bit of information. Not that it's a little bit, but yeah, just to make better analysis of it. So yeah, I'm happy with it.
He showed me his worksheets yesterday and I was kind of blown away by the amount of work you'd actually put in on it already. I mean,
Yeah.
it's.
I can tell it. It should be brand new to him, but he's,
Yeah,
he's.
no, he's digging in. There's no
he's
question
right
he's
on
digging
top
in.
of it.
So we'll
Okay.
see what comes out of that.
Okay, and I'm sort of trying to make it quick, so, because you're new, Barbara's overwhelmed, and I'm going to Vegas as soon as this meeting's over.
Out of town.
Oh, yeah. Now that it comes down to it, and we know the whole truth.
Okay, the local aging people have looked at that one. I didn't see anything that's on Barbara, so. Is there any old business? Is there any contracts we need to approve?
They're next on the,
Okay, then new business contracts.
is the contracts, and the list is included on page 24. If there's any questions about any of them, none of them are new. Many of them are not necessarily renewing right at this point, but it's the annual review.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about any of the renewals? I looked at them and they, like Barbara said, they're renewals and they're going along and
I've reviewed them as well. I don't see anything there that I have any concerns about.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, and there really wasn't that many this time, but yeah, everything looked as it should be. I like the information about, whether it's 90-day prior with written notices or the content on, to meet compliance. So I like that, having that extra information. I know.
And
the one contract that we've never had, and I'm just gonna mention it, give about anybody heartburn, the propane. We did approve, or attempt to approve the contract.
Yeah.
But it's not in anything.
Well, we
actually,
did-
it is.
It is
It's brand new, so it won't hit till next year.
okay,
Right,
So
okay,
from a review perspective, so
well, but it's not even, okay, so this is only review.
these are the
Right.
ones from last year that are due. to be
Okay,
reviewed.
so we approved him to approve.
Yeah.
Do we need to approve what he approved, or is that?
No, you gave me permission to go ahead and approve it if that was fine and it met with the legal requirements and so forth. So
At the
that's
last
approved. Yeah.
meeting, you said the signature date was the date that we could start purchasing propane, not
Correct,
the contract date.
correct.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. It'll be on the next.
they come up by date,
Okay,
date of the
So the-
start, so.
yeah, I thought whenever we first put it on, it went. up.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
And we're looking at October and November for that, right?
October 1st.
October 1st. Okay, perfect.
okay, capital expenditures. The buses, I didn't read that, Mark.
This is the second
This is the
vehicle.
second.
The,
Oh, okay.
Subaru.
I'll let Mark describe it. So he's done the work on the project.
So you ready to hear about the second vehicle purchase?
Yes,
Okay, so this is a capital expenditure request. We went to Toyota, we went to Kia, we went to Sangera, Subaru, we went several places. A lot of these newer cars that are about approximately this size, what we were looking for, were all right around the same money. They're very close, within a couple $1,000s of each other. I looked at a RAV4 Toyota. We looked at the Subaru. Sangera actually had one on their lot that we're looking for. And he was able to get it under the $40,000 limit, which is what you see there, 30. I wish that we hadn't told him what our budget was, because he managed to get under the budget by a 1 penny. So, but anyway, this is grant funded, and we are advertising now for 2 drivers as well.
So Dave, that's a good question. Because this is a grant fund, would this technically be, we would still probably capitalize it, I would imagine, even though the monies are coming from a grant?
Yes.
Yes, it should be capitalized as long as it has a useful life of greater than 3 or 5
Gotcha.
years.
Okay,
And the fact is, Barbara has to write the check And then we get reimbursed for it once we submit that invoice
And health
to
systems.
Current Health Systems.
If not, I think they'll be busy enough that we probably need to hire a full-time driver. But if we didn't, could we have a volunteer driver through the Pink Ladies or someone that, I don't know, I'm just
No,
asking.
just from a liability perspective, probably wouldn't want to do that.
The grant
The grant
included,
includes two people.
Oh, okay.
It's- The grant money pays for it, so.
How much does it pay? You asked if I was interested, Mark, and I might be.
I don't think you'll work for minimum wage, Gene.
It might be too much of a risk.
It is $15 an hour now, though.
Is minimum wage still $2 an hour?
We do have,
Yeah,
we have to insure. it.
Okay. Do we need approval for that?
Yeah, we do.
Go to the board.
Okay. Guys,
Catherine, you
you
want to make?
want to approve it to the consent agenda?
I do. Am I making the first one? I make a motion that we take it to the consent agenda for approval from the board.
I'll second that.
Okay, Tim seconded. So let's go into the consent agenda. And Dave, I sort of went through this because there's no point because we all here know exactly what's going on. And
Yes.
so. and we're-
That's the way these meetings should run. We can do the research ahead of time, and we can actually meet separately one-on-one, also works fine. These meetings should just be for things that need everybody to hear.
Okay. I think that was the end of it, right? Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about? They can talk about.
I did want to take the chance to query board members to ask you guys if at some point you could come up with a list of things you don't want to see changed and list of things that we might want to consider changing in terms of the format of this meeting. Now that we have the opportunity, I can certainly be glad to plug into any things that the board members think are really deficient. For example, let's assume for a minute, you really are missing that product line presentation that Chet used to give. I'll make sure next month we have a product line presentation. If that's important to you, I need to see the list of those things that we really don't want to lose, but perhaps some things that you, at least initially, if you'd like to see the meetings more brief, less detail, more detail, what.
Yeah, well,
I'd ask Dave to spend a little bit more time on the balance sheet because we rarely ever talk about that. And I think there's a lot of stuff in there.
the question is not do we want to change, when do we want to stop changing? When all the changes.
It's a good point. I can think of the 30 years I've been a CFO, and there always is regularly opportunities to keep refining how we do things.
Right, but there's only two of us board members here, and Catherine, I'm sure you'll have some suggestions, and I will, and the other board members at the regular board meeting, we can mention that if he has any input from the new guy. Welcome here. This meeting's adjourned.
It's pretty good.
Well, how long will it take?
I don't know, you're challenging.
Yeah, you're challenging me pretty good. So that's pretty good.
For everything that's, there's no. Next meeting.
But I was doing my due diligence. I wasn't trying to get out to go to Vegas. Thought I'd put that out there.
it's easier to
Okay.
have a shorter meeting when there's $10 million on the.
On the books?
on the
Yeah,
books.
makes a big difference. Tim, before we go, I want to ask a question. You said to go over what document that we don't normally touch on that has a lot of information on it?
Balance sheet.
Oh, the balance sheet. Okay.
So.
I just didn't
normally
quite
we
hear
jump right into operations and we look at the P&L, but we don't look at the balance sheet per se. So
Okay.
I think as Dave has been looking through that, he kind of saw things there too.
He
that we-
said exactly on my way over here in the car,
Yeah.
the thought that went through my head is, if they want to claw some of that back, we should have a little reserve.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case.
Always.
It's still, we're not gonna offer it back to them.
I do not know of a CFO that I've ever worked with that doesn't want to have a reserve. I mean, it's just that You live and die by the reserve. The question is how much?
Yeah, right.
You know, I think that's what David is saying. You guys think is that there should be some reasonableness to that.
Yeah, and the nice word we use is we like to be conservative.
That's right.
I think this last year with all the extra funds that have floated through has made a difference.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we got a lot of money that was not patient-related funds.
A lot, and it's good. I mean, and hopefully everything is gonna just go so smooth. And and the new guy. Now, can we not talk about Chet while we talk about, is Chet okay?
Chet's doing, we probably shouldn't talk online about that, but
Okay,
if you want to stop, if we're done with the meeting, you can stop the recording. If the meeting's officially over.
yes, yes.